Get your coffee, please. That'll be the only way for you to stay warm. Although Chris is going to check the heat. So I heard you guys enjoy the cantor that was here. She loved it. She came to visit my wife after Sunday morning, and she really enjoyed this experience. And I think you understand better the role of a cantor after she explained what it is. She loves always to claim that the cantors came before the rabbis. Don't believe a word she said.
So does that mean?
I know she is.
Does that mean you can sing? Because she said rabbis can sing.
Well, she never liked when we sing, because we sing and we, drum on the podium, and she hated it.
She said you had no rhythm.
I still think that Jews definitely have a challenge in singing. You guys do a better job. And when it comes to Baptist choirs, oh my God. I don't know why Jews don't sing. They're really
Well, if you don't sing, your kids don't sing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so definitely from the pulpit at Temple Israel, we always join her. That's why she didn't like the joining. Sometimes we're off key. There is, I think we definitely show happiness and joy, especially at weddings. I don't know if you attended Jewish weddings. There's definitely a lot of dancing and lifting the couple on chairs, and usually the couples is afraid of getting a heart attack on the chairs because the people that are holding it are 70 years older or 80. But there's a lot of joy at weddings, and there is I don't know how to explain. Maybe it's part of the way we deal with our history, maybe the sadness and the lack of joy. That's why we need you guys. That's why the tri-faith is so important. You need to teach us how to sing, how to be loud. Yeah. Good morning. Any questions from anything she said that needs a little bit more elaboration? Yes?
This isn't about the cancer. How's your wife?
Doing better every day. She's still in the hospital. Thank you for continuous praying. Hopefully tomorrow she'll come home. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for asking. Is this the last copy? Oh, perfect. We're not cutting too many trees here. It's great. I decided to finish with Passover. I remember being invited to this church to do a Passover service. That was about, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It was lovely. Doing a teaching piece on Passover. I think it's a very important holiday that binds both of our religions together. You need to know that there are evangelical groups not far away from this building on Dodge. They do Passover too. They usually don't invite us. They do Passover and they interpret some of the accoutrements of Passover in a very, very different way than what we do with this. So, for example, the matzah, if you went to a Passover in evangelical Passover celebration. You know what a matzah is? Yeah. The matzah has lots of holes, small little holes. Guess what those holes represent in their celebration of Passover? The holes in the hand of Jesus from the nails. So it's an interesting feeling that I have. You know, I think sometimes we should leave images in items like a matzah on the original level of what it was, although sometimes you can have the freedom and the independence to interpret it differently if it works for you. But it was a little bizarre. You know, so everything on the Passover table is interpreted differently. Of course, in order to strengthen the faith that they have, which is okay, but don't invite a Jew for that Passover celebration. So I walked into evangelical churches as a teacher, never as a celebrator. Here, on the other hand, was perfect because I was able to interpret all the things, and there was no different interpretation that is removed. I walked in as a teacher, not as someone that is joining in the celebration in a way. But that's what is so attractive about the relationship the temple has with countryside, that we allow each other to celebrate and to be able to teach each other the origin of what we're doing. So I wanted to finish with Passover, and there is a part of the Passover narrative. You know, we have a special book that is called the Haggadah. So we have a text. We always have a text at every holiday. God forbid we should not learn and study something. We can't go straight to the food, ever. There's always introduction of 45 minutes or an hour before, and the Passover, the mitzvah of Passover is to be able to finish it a few minutes after 12 o'clock. So that's why you walk into some homes of Jews, and they do a very short version of the Haggadah. They do maybe 2 or 3 pages, concise, and then let's eat. So it ends with let's eat. And they never come back after the meal to the Haggadah. Because the way the Haggadah works is that you have definitely the reading of the narrative before the dinner, and then you have a dinner, and then you have the Psalms, the praises for what God has done, and we have 2 more cups of wine after. We also learn that we should not invite Muslims when you have to drink wine. So it'll be interesting to try to do a Passover Seder, inviting everyone, but then maybe putting Jews. Jews is okay, so you can fake it, but it's not the same as drinking 4 cups and then finding yourself underneath the table. It's interesting that when it came to conversation with alcoholic Jews, some of their early memories are the cups of wine on the Passover Seder, which is interesting and sad where it started. So we definitely have Jews, we have other options, and if you don't want to drink, just smell the wine, it's okay. There's a way of working it in.
Rabbi,
yeah.
there must be Jewish people who are alcoholics.
Yeah, of
How
course.
do they deal
Oh.
with that?
No, we are different. There's not even one Jew that is alcoholic. What are you talking about? We are supermen and superwomen. Yeah, of course we have. We had a temple years ago, every Tuesday night, there was all the anonymous groups met. And, they felt comfortable in the synagogue coming. And, yeah, we made it. We have the same ills of all the society.
So do they just drink juice then at that time?
Oh, yeah. So Friday night, they don't drink wine. Those that are fighting it and they want to recover, they drink juice, yeah. Yeah, we assimilated very well into the ills of America. Yeah, I'm saying it with some sarcasm, but that's what America does. It has wonderful blessings for all of us, but also introducing some ills that we need to withstand and try to fight them. Yeah, yes.
Are you saying before the Jews came to this country, there wasn't alcohol?
Are you kidding? They always drank. But they were not part of Alcohol Anonymous in Russia. I don't think during the Tsar there was actually groups that met to fight alcohol. Only in America we're so organized. We have a name for every group. Yeah. No, of course, Jews always drank. It started in the Bible. I mean, what is the first thing that Noah did when he finally landed with the ark, with the animals? I mean, he needed to recover from the smell. So he planted a vineyard and got drunk. So alcohol, by the way, there's no prohibition in Judaism of drinking. There is a prohibition in Islam about drinking. And from time to time, we forget about that, and we need to, especially in a tri-faith gathering, we need to make sure that we don't offend anyone. It'll be very interesting to learn how to behave, a new behavior that needs to be learned and appropriated. It's okay. We can handle it. We can have events with no alcohol. Or you can all bring your own little bottle and hide it and go to the washroom. We used to go to the washroom to smoke cigarettes. So we can use the washroom for other events. Sorry. Okay, so in part of the telling of the story of Passover, there is a section of the 4 children. And it's fascinating. So there is a narrative about 4 different children in the Passover Seder. And you have the children's story there in the narrative in order to create conversation. So the reason why the Passover narrative goes all night is because the idea is to create moments where, for example, when you present the 10 plagues, you stop and you have a conversation about modern day plagues. Do you need to invent them? Number 1, the president. Number 2, the president. Number 3, okay. So, by the way, it gives you a chance during the narrative to create, in a way, a modern day narrative that is parallel to the Passover struggle. Every generation has a Pharaoh, guys. Every generation has a Pharaoh. Every generation, there are people who are rising to inflict us with different kind of ills. You know that. Sometimes that Pharaoh grows up in your own family. Who is the Pharaoh in your family? Who is the Moses in your family? What is the exit in your family? Do I need to be liberated from the Egypt that I live in? I mean, think about the amazing power of the holiday of Passover. But you need to be open for 6-7 hours of really dealing with this And you're getting your food, don't worry. The food is excellent. We don't just eat the matzah. By the way, that matzah, if you eat it seriously 7 days, you get so constipated that you need definitely to recover after that. By the way, it's also not healthy for people with medication, so make sure you're careful with eating matzah. Don't enjoy it too much. But it's part of the food. And by the way, the tradition, and you'll see it in a second, is that you never finish the Passover meal with dessert. You have to go back to the original matzah that you cut 2 halves in order to hide the matzah so the kids can search where you're hiding. What a great idea to keep the kids awake. So the entire Passover experience is really to tell the story while the kids are awake. And you have introducing into the Haggadah games to keep everyone awake. So you hide a matzah after you cut it in 2 halves that are not similar. You cut it. 1 part you hide, and 1 part you eat, because this is the bread of affliction, the poor person's bread. So then you make a connection to poverty and to hunger. I mean, look at what, from one holiday, how it deals with everything else in your life. That's why it has to be done correctly. And Passover was done by Jesus, for God's sake. So you do it for Jesus. What? For Jesus' sake. No, but I'm saying that's what he did. We know this. And so there's no reason why, when we get together as a tri-faith, not to celebrate the holidays together. You know, maybe there'll be one night. I mean, we love to create Passover for different groups. So we have Passover for women. I do Passover in jail. When I was in Baltimore, a rabbi, I went to jail every Passover because there were Jewish prisoners. And so what an idea to celebrate Passover in jail and to feel the gates closing behind you when you leave. By the way, every time we did Passover in jail, we discovered suddenly so many Jews were there. They were not Jews, they were prisoners that wanted to eat better food. We brought the food to jail, and suddenly everyone was Jewish. And we needed to find a way to reduce the number, and I said, next Passover I'm coming with a mohel. Someone that will circumcise and check who is a real Jew. And they stopped coming as a result of that. Back to the section, the 4 children. Each child has an assignment. There is the wise guy, the wicked kid, the kid that doesn't know how to ask, and the naive kid, the innocent kid. And there is a text put in every kid's mouth from the Torah that asks a question. So we're going to see the question of the wise. So who would like to read the 3rd page? I want you to go to the 3rd page. On the top it says Kedushat Levi. This is the person who is the teacher of this text. It says from Bo. Bo is the name of the Torah portion in the book of Exodus. You know that all the Torah is divided into different portions. Bo, in the book of Exodus, is the Torah portion that deals with the Exodus. So who would like to read the text from the Torah, please? The top few lines. Yes?
What does the wise child ask? What are these testimonies, statutes, and judgments that Yahweh, our God, has commanded for you?
So the wise guy, knowing perfectly well the answer, he asks in the Passover Haggadah, the text that appears in the Exodus chapter, he is asking, what are all those teaching? So now the Hasidic master is going to give the answer for the question. So he knows the answer. He puts the question there just to evoke similar kind of questions on our part. Would you like to continue reading, please?
There are two ways of serving our blessed Creator. One comes about as we behold miracles and wonders, the transformation of nature. When God makes natural forces do His bidding, we understand that God rules over all and that all His creatures are obliged to serve Him in awe.
Okay, so that's easy. When miracles happen around and nature changes, it's easy to what? To understand God and believe in God. Wow, you know. So the people that left Egypt, can you imagine walking through 2 walls of water on dry land? I mean, how can you not believe in God? Although the moment they cross the sea, they start complaining already. What was the first complaint? We don't have water. Excuse me, you just walk through pillars, walls of water, and the first thing they do is complaining, we don't have water. So, it's easy to believe in God when you have those miracles happen. And there are definitely miracles that happen to us. And at that moment, I'm sure our faith was strong and solid, and we didn't have to debate or to have doubts about it. The faith was there. What about other times? Continue with the next one.
The second path is that of true awareness, knowing that He has created all things by the word of His mouth. Because of that, He is able to transform them. This is the better way. It makes awareness based on miracles unimportant. Such a person already has the wisdom to understand that the Creator can change nature, and the miracle is not surprising to him.
Wow, that's the more difficult part. But what happens when the miracles cease to happen? So, what holds you then? Hey, I'm aware of what God is capable of doing. That's enough for me. I don't have to have Mount Sinai miracle or the parting of the Sea of Reed. They did a good job in Universal Studio. I remember standing there when I went. Everyone needs to go there. That's why I came to America. I came to America to go to Disneyland. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know how many of you witnessed this in those, I think it's Universal Studio. Wow. It was so easy for God. You know, I don't need any more. I need to just keep awareness that those kind of things happen to my people, to other people in the world. That's why it's not so hard for me at all to believe that God appears to different prophets in a different manner. If I can keep awareness of who is my God and what God means to me, why is it so difficult, and why do I need to doubt the miracles or the awareness of other people that believe in a different kind of religion? We all have similar ways or pathways for awareness. So the second way, so the question is asked on the Passover Haggadah, you know, who needs the miracles? I'm asking, what are those testimonies, statutes, and judgments? I need to understand that all of the testimonies and statutes and judgments are there to keep my awareness alive. The reason why I have mitzvot, commandments. What is the purpose of commandments? To keep the awareness alive. So when I taste the matzah, I'm capable of tasting the miracle that happened so many thousands of years. but I'm testing the matzah. And the matzah is the bread of affliction. And I can be aware of the poverty in the midst of the affluence. I'm making the tasting of the matzah a bridge to an awareness that I need to keep now, not the past. I need to acknowledge the past, but I'm capable to move because of my awareness without expecting any miracles to happen to me. Is that clear? Any questions about this? If I keep my awareness alive 24/7, I will definitely notice the miracle of this little child that is talking now, and actually he's teaching Torah in his own way. We just don't understand it.
See the mess she's drawn?
I know.
That's around and around. What you're hearing is around and around and around and around and around.
Beautiful. Yeah, the world keeps round and around. Beautiful. So let's continue. So that's the second way. So who would like to continue reading? Please. Yes.
This is the wise child's question. What are these testimonies, statutes, and judgments that Yahweh, our God, has commanded?
And now comes the answer.
He knows that the wonders are not really wonders from God's point of view.
Yeah, God doesn't look at this as, hey, look at what I did. Sometimes we spend so much time talking about what God thinks. Why? Let's leave God, whatever God wants to do. It's more important what we think. It's about us. We don't know anything about God. And we know everything about God. Can you live with those two ideas at the same time? Who are we? Oh, I know. I mean, you hear those preachers on Sunday morning. They're so clear and sure about the conversation that God had with them while they were eating popcorn the night before. Who are we? Who are we that God will take interest in us? And at the same time, we are created in God's image. Wow, that's enough. I don't need to know more than anything else. Let's continue.
That the Creator can change anything He wants, but the acts of eating Pesach and Matzah.
Okay, so here are two words in Hebrew. Pesach is the sacrificed lamb. So on the table, part of the accoutrements on a plate, we always have a symbolic plate on Passover with all those different accoutrements. So what do we have there? We have a hard-boiled egg, and we have a bone that represents the Paschal lamb that was sacrificed when the temple was built. Once the temple was destroyed, the only thing we have is 2 weeks before Passover, we go to the butcher. Can you give me a bone representative of the Passover? What? Here's the bone. So we take the bone and put it in a plastic bag, keep it in the freezer for 2 weeks before Passover, and then we put it on the plate, the bone. Now, of course, in Christianity, I need to understand that what is the Paschal lamb? Who is the Paschal lamb? Jesus. That's the sacrifice. In Christianity, there's a way of connecting all of this together, and for us to sit together and celebrate this in a way that it provides a channel of belief and faith and awareness to you, and at the same time to Jewish participants that will not, of course, they need to learn what is the Paschal lamb sacrifice and who is the sacrifice. We almost got there with the sacrifice of Isaac. Oh, wow, that's great. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. I love that show. Beautiful.
Gotta start over now.
What happened with Isaac in the Jewish Bible? Abraham is asked to do what? Sacrifice his son. We almost were there, guys. Of course, none of us will be here if Abraham actually accomplished that. In the last minute, God comes out. Oh my God, Abraham is crazy. Stop, don't sacrifice Isaac. And then he sacrificed a lamb, a ram that was caught in the thicket, in the forest. That's why we have the shofar. The ram horn is what we do in the musical instrument on high holidays. The shofar reminds us of the willing of Abraham to sacrifice his son. But that's where we stop. Christianity, I think, moved a step ahead and found a wonderful way to bring the Jesus experience into the faith of Christianity. Sometimes I walk to churches. I love the cross that you guys have. Oh my God, this is an active. That's why I never do a second time from the beginning. You walk in here and you see the cross, and you walk into some Catholic churches and it has blood and it's dripping and it's, oh my God, the twisted body of Jesus and the pain. This is one way to introduce Jesus into the faith. Another way is to do it with a cross that you guys have, which is there. By the way, in the congregation that I go in the high holidays, after retirement in Kauai, we pray in a Presbyterian church, and they have exactly similar presentation of the cross. And so the members of my synagogue in Kauai, they were worried about how I would feel about this. And I said, oh, it's fine, just keep it there. Rabbi, should we cover it? No, don't cover it, it's fine. Leave it there. Doesn't disturb anything of what we do. Now, if there was a different presentation, maybe. We need to be comfortable with each other's symbols, yes.
I have a good interpretation of the corpus on the cross from Father Hauser at Creighton.
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
And I went to a prayer retreat with him like 20 years ago or so, and on Sunday morning he said, I'll do a little service for you. And there's this giant crucifix on the wall, and he said, I know that really bothers you Protestants, but let me tell you what it means to me. He said, when Jesus was dying on the cross, God was with him, and he will be with you in your suffering also.
Of course.
And that just changed my whole feeling about it.
And in happiness.
Yes.
So God doesn't have to appear only in suffering.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of our religions introduce the suffering and the relationship to God. That's the only way for some of us and for people that left the concentration camp to continue believing in God. God was with me, that's why I'm out. And not everyone accepted it. So here is the Pesach. The Pesach reference is to the Paschal lamb, and the matzah, of course, is the matzah. So go back to your sentence that you start reading.
But the acts of eating Pesach and matzah point toward worshiping God because of the miracles. That is his question. Why should this be? Don't we already have true recognition of Yahweh, knowing that nothing is too wondrous for him? To this question we give the answer, we do not follow the Pesach with dessert.
Yeah, so the matzah that was hidden and the kids found, by the way, we do it with kids to age 18. I mean, because they're getting presents, because you need to redeem the matzah that they found. So this is another way of keeping them awake, because they will bargain with you about the gift that they're going to get because they found the matzah. So I used to give them the $2 coin. Oh my God, they never saw $2 coin. It was like exciting. But then they start demanding more gifts. So, and you need to redeem the piece of matzah because you need to finish the meal with that piece of matzah. So that matzah is distributed to all the participants at the end. And so you don't finish with dessert, because eating dessert was a Greek tradition. Dessert was invented by the Greeks. We don't want to emulate the Greeks. So you go back to the matzah and you finish with this terrible taste in your mouth of the matzah that was redeemed in the afikomen. Afikomen, by the way, it's a Greek word which means dessert. So the Jews called that event finding the afikomen, because this is finding of the dessert that we're going to end the meal. What a beautiful way to end a Passover celebration with this bread of affliction. Believe me, it is affliction for 7 days. It's a serious affliction. Let's continue.
Matzah and Pesach refer to the miracles and wonders. It is this sort of service that endures forever. This is why the Talmud says that you must taste matzah last. And the same was true of the Pesach sacrifice when the temple stood.
This is a reference in the Talmud. Babylonian, B stands for Babylonian. Pesach, that's the name of the tractate, is page 119, side B. We have, so again, this careful reading of text, they don't just put it there without giving you the reference. So the Talmud is an amazing treasure of the way things were done during the time of Jesus, during the times of the rabbis, and the time after. The Talmud is a masterpiece of a lot of tractates that is written for 600 years. So sometimes that's where the origin of everything is, for the Jewish celebration. Okay, continue.
This taste of worshiping God because of the miracles had to remain, because this is the sort of worship that lasts forever. Of this we say, may it never depart from us or from our descendants.
Yeah, that's it. So the miracle exists in the tasting of the matzah. I don't need anymore to be convinced that a miracle took place. By tasting it, similar to the importance of the tasting that takes place in Christianity, this ritual is similar. We all know that this is not just a piece of cookie and a taste of wine. It's not that. But that's in both of the religion, the tasting is the act of believing in the miracle, believing in the tradition. And may it never depart from our lips. That's the prayer. I don't need to have miracles happening around me all the time to believe in God. I'm done. And every year you find ways of reminding yourself by the celebration, hopefully authentic celebration. That's why the Passover narrative is so important in Jewish circles. But also very important is, when are we going to eat? So one needs to be aware of the length of the celebration of the Passover, because they're not going to come next year to your house. So it's so people that are invited to our home know that it's going to be longer. We have a second Passover Seder. So Passover is celebrated 2 nights. So first night is at home, second night at the temple, because we have people that are very hard for them to prepare a whole meal and to go through the narrative, and so we do a second night in the temple, and everything is provided there, and they come and they enjoy the second night. And we hide the afikomen there, and the kids, I always told the kids before they start searching for this, that it's wired to the police station, and that I will know exactly who did it, and every year they believe me, and it's so wonderful what you can do with the minds of children. Completely manipulated. And we give them prizes for finding it, so we put it underneath tables and chairs, and we put 6 or 7 or 10, so more kids will enjoy it. And we gave every kid the gift. So it worked. And some of those kids are grown up, and some of them are married at weddings. And it's interesting when they still remember that they found it. I mean, that's something that is there forever. Okay, let's continue.
This is not the case with true awareness. This is present only among the great, and only so long as they remain in a state of attachment to God and have not fallen.
Have fallen. So the great, those are people who are scholars. People that, and that's why we study. Those are the great. State of fallen, not fallen, which is a phrase that you are aware very much about not being at the same level all the time. Go on.
That is why we answer the wise son in this way, so that the service in response to miracles not be something he sets aside.
Yeah, the service, the reading of the Haggadah, the narrative of Passover will create enough of awareness that you don't have to repeat the miracles. The miracles by now, are not important because they happen. And how do I know they happen? Because every year I go back to the text, and the text tells me that it happened. And even if I don't remember that, by eating matzah and mentioning the words of the celebration keeps my awareness alive. That's how we should never stay away from celebration of holidays. I mean, and to try to make the holiday as meaningful as possible, and to think about the younger generation and how to seduce them, lure them into celebrating, and use whatever gimmicks you can. It's all about them. It's all about the younger generation that have more doubts about the miracles. And so you have to find a way that by them tasting, celebrating, looking at the tree with the lights, finding out those kind of things. And then you don't have to talk about miracles. My parents did it, my grandparents did it, you're doing it, and you're going to continue doing it every year. And it's the study, the learning, the text in front of it. Okay, please go now to the next text, which is, again, dealing in the middle of the page. You have the text, and the text is pretty much the same as we read already, so we don't have to read it. This is now a different opinion of a different rabbi interpreting the text from Exodus in a different way. So that's how we have a lot of text, because everyone has to have their opinion, and they have to teach something. They read the same text and discover different things. How many times you read prayers and they spoke to you differently because you are at a different place in life? So this awareness of learning and studying has to be kept always inside of you. And we read the same Torah portions every year, and every year you can write sermons on the same text that reflect different places where you are. So that's why learning is so crucial in Jewish circles. It's also because what I said to you once, this was something that no one was able to take from us. So if you look at Jewish history and you look at the wandering and the exodus, every generation from different states and different countries, that's the one thing that no one was capable of taking from us. And that's why you find such a high percentage of Jews involved in university studies, in learning and absorbing. And that's why you have so many lawyers. Too many. So who would like to read this time?
I will.
Yes, please.
Is this really all the practices and laws of Passover? This refers only to the conclusion of the meal. In a Siddur of Rabbi Isaac Luria, it is taught that the word Pesach, which means skipping, refers to the fact that Israel, at the Exodus, reached the highest state of mind before going through and skipping over the lesser stages.
Okay, so here is a test of the stages in Hasidic theology. So I mentioned it before, and this is in a way repetition, that you have stages. You have to look at the worlds made out of stairways to heaven. The dream that Jacob had. Jacob is a crucial character in Jewish theology. Why Jacob? Because what happened to Jacob? The name was changed. What is the new name of Jacob? Israel. Israel means one who strives and struggles with can you hear me? Oh, wow. I didn't do anything.
Struggle.
Oh, there's no battery. The battery died. Okay, I'll have to speak louder. I don't know what kind. I know matzah. I don't know better. Jacob's name was changed after the struggle. We don't know if the struggle was with Esau or was a nightmare that Jacob had, because the next morning he met his brother that he didn't see for 20 years. Remember, the relationship was not so great. Sibling rivalry, that's all the stories in Genesis. The name will change to Israel. And so we are not the children of Abraham, we're actually...
I'll just see if I can find a battery so I don't have to scream forever.
I love to scream. My mother told me that I have a microphone in my mouth all my life. And now I need to yell because she is in Israel. And sometimes I forget that I have the phone in my hand. I speak like she is all the way in Israel and she needs to hear me. So I speak loud and she yells at me, I have those hearing aids, don't yell. Okay. I said, I'm yelling because I'm in Omaha and you're in Tel Aviv. So, Pesach is Passover. That's what Pesach means, skipping. The word Pesach is the skipping. Skipping what? Skipping from the lower level of awareness to the most higher level of awareness. Can you imagine how those Israelites that were just released from Egypt and were slaves for 430 years, what do you think was their level of awareness of God when they were in Egypt? None! That's why the Torah was not given to them while they were in slavery. Why is God taking them to the desert? Because they can only accept the Torah in complete physical freedom. Why would they accept the Torah and the commandments while they are slaves to Pharaoh? Are you kidding? I'm already a slave. Why do I need to get new ordinance, new commandments? So he takes them to the desert. So the Israelites increase their awareness of who is God to the top.
It's working again.
That was God's voice. This is the kind of awareness that you guys need to have.
It was a woman.
Of course it was a woman. Okay, now, can you hear me now? It's like commercial. Can you hear me now? They were able to skip as a result of being free and crossing the Sea of Reeds. They were able to skip to the top level of divine awareness. That's where we need to be. And it's hard. So in the stairway to heaven, you have different stages. And we here in this room, all of us, are in different levels of awareness, of understanding the divine in our life. The Israelites were lucky. They were able suddenly to get to the top awareness as a result of what? The miracles that they walked into the Universal Studio, split water. Do you understand the level, how they were able to skip all the levels from the lower possible understanding of divine, because they didn't know anything. They didn't know about God in Egypt. God for them was Pharaoh. You'll bring him. That was the God that they remembered or they knew. Once they are out in the desert and crossing the Sea of Reeds, in the dry land, and getting the manna, and being free, they were able in a very short time to get to the top. That's the kind of search that we are going through in our religious life. And by the way,
That's pretty.
oh, it's so beautiful. You see, this is how God appears in our lives at this moment. Through a voice of a woman with batteries, to telephone calls. By the way, I have to tell you, I don't know if I mentioned to you. So we had a scholar in resident. Did I mention the story? We had a scholar in resident 2 weeks ago on Friday. Some of you were there. And the Spiris Weinbeck, Dr. Spiris Weinbeck was invited to the Bima to introduce the speaker. And he introduced the speaker as, I'm inviting Dr. Larry Rothman, who died a few years ago. It was very bizarre. Why would he invite a speaker in a completely different kind of a name and call the name of Dr. Larry Rothman? May his memory be a blessing. That was a very close friend of Speedy. So I went to the widow after services, next to the chocolate, you know, we have those kind of. And I said to her, that was strange. And she said to me, it wasn't strange at all, because we just celebrated our anniversary the night before.
Oh.
Do you see what's happening? Why would her husband, that husband, appear in the mouth of someone else on the anniversary day? This is a kind of awareness. By the way, it gave her a smile, and she she felt good and touched, and wow. The Israelites were able to skip those stages because of the miracles that happened. It's not so easy with us. So continue reading.
I heard from that holy lamp, Rabbi Azriel.
I love this. He considered that teacher, the Rabbi Abraham, as a holy lamp. So if you discover a scholar and you discover someone that teaches you, what a wonderful way to call your clergy in this church, holy lamp. Because what emanates from them is definitely holiness. And so, continue.
The son of our teacher, the Maggid Rabbi,
Door-bearer.
that a person needs to repair all of the 7 qualities, beginning with love, awe, and glory.
So those stages are always in constant repair. Every one of us should have a sign on them, work in progress. We are work in progress. Sometimes the progress is evident, and sometimes we are so belittling the progress we have made, and we need to pay attention to where we are at every moment in our lives. So sometimes we need to repair those qualities that we have. Go on.
Each has to be turned toward God alone, so that we love only God, and so that we do not make use of these attributes for our own bodily benefit, but only for the sake of Yahweh. Each of these qualities contains all 7 within it, thus adding up to 49. Only after all these does the 50th gate
Bina.
come to dwell with us.
Guys, there are 50 stages to get where we need to get. This is part of the philosophy, the theology of Hasidic Judaism. The last stage, 50, is Bina. Bina means in Hebrew a total wisdom. But it takes a lot of stages to climb. By the way, this is the game we played as children. Remember that game? What was the name of the game? Shoot and letters. You play with the dice, because all life is about playing with the dice. And sometimes you go up, and sometimes you get to almost the end and you come down all the way. That's it. That's how they envision the qualities that we need to have in our life. So in each of the quality, there are 7 different parts. 7 multiplied by 7 is 49. Get to 49 and then you'll get to the 50. The Israelites, crossing the Sea of Reeds, got to the 50 immediately. So unfair. But do you blame them? What they saw and witnessed was the ultimate miracles. It was easy for them. By the way, what we discovered after they got the 50, they immediately lost it and started back the game from the beginning. The purpose of what happened in the desert, and it was clear that they will never make it. Only 2 people were capable of going to the promised land. All the 600,000 people that left Egypt according to tradition, which never happened, but it's okay. I believe in it. Because what's important in the story is that sometimes all of us need to go to those deserts and some of us will never come out. And that's okay. That's okay. I still have the privilege of wandering in the desert of my life. So when we have some hesitations, what's happening with my faith, it is possible that I am at this moment in the desert. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll come out of the desert, or maybe I'll get stuck there. By the way, getting stuck there is not so bad. You have a struggle. You have suddenly an awareness that is a little bit different. Not everyone comes out of the desert. But the goal is to be able to achieve the highest level of awareness, that at any moment you know that all the qualities that you have in your life are not to serve your body, but they are there to serve God. I am going to try to be the best creature in the image of God and not anyone else's image. So the goal of our lives, according to this teaching, is to try to climb up always climb up, even if it's one little step. But every step brings you higher to where you need to do. And the only way to do it is with a serious adult learning. How else? It comes from reading books, having the right teachers, making sure that at every moment of your life is spent far away from the TV, definitely far away from Fox. What a strange name to this station, Fox. Constant learning. This is really the only way that we definitely Jews, and it doesn't have to be just a Jewish pursuit of knowledge. Everyone should pursue knowledge all the time that they have. And then we die. I don't think that's the end of pursuing knowledge. In Jewish tradition, there is a belief that the next world, first of all, you need to leave a good name. So please don't ask me what Jews think about the world to come. Jews just, number one is to leave a good name. So when you are mentioned after dying, there will be a smile coming. I hope I was able to get this from you when I die. Just smile. That's enough. But there was never enough for Jews, because every two Jews had three opinions. And it's also about the world to come. So one of the things I love in the teaching is that in the world to come, we'll have all chance to study with the master teachers. They're there. They never lost their knowledge. So the people that we are studying now, we're going to meet them in the world to come. And the only difference is that you will have abstracted view. What's the name of the place we do entertainment now? They change it every week. What? Yeah. So you'll get the worst seats in CH what? A Quest Center. And then every time you need some money, you sell the name. It's a wonderful model to teach kids what to do in their life. Disgusting. Instead of using the money for healing, and that's my opinion. Anyway. So when we die, if we were not so great and we didn't live our life according to the relationship that we need to have with God, we'll get seats all the way in the nose bleeding. And why do I want to be with the master teachers in the nose bleeding seats? I want to be close. I want to be next to the table. I want to be sitting on the table. I don't want to be there. Maybe that's a good way to conduct my life in a way that this is my goal. Who knows? But think about this idea in Judaism, that the idea that even in death, you're going to be able to study with the master teachers. And Jesus is going to sit there, and Muhammad is going to be there, and it's not going to be just the Jewish teachers, because all the wisdom of the world will be sitting around the table. I love this. I actually am seeking to die too. No, not really. But that gives you energy. That gives you a whole different way of looking at your life. Let's continue.
But at the Exodus from Egypt, they came immediately to the 50th.
Yeah, that's what the Exodus did to the people that left. They came immediately to the 50. They never experienced this wonderful climbing that we all have. They never understood how they got there. They got there because of the miracle. Only they got there immediately to the 50th stage. For us, it's a full-time work. Go on.
Thus Scripture says, Israel came forth from Egypt on
Chamushim. That's a Hebrew word. In Hebrew, chamushim means weaponize. So the Exodus for the Jews that left was a weaponizing experience. They got everything immediately. Chamushim. They were aware. They were wearing those weapons of understanding God immediately. Chamushim. Go on.
read as 50-fold.
50-fold. Go on.
It was through
Bina, the higher stage.
that the miracle took place.
You see, so maybe there was no miracle. They were able to understand the higher level. At that moment, the miracle happened. The miracle, or the way they interpret what happened. Go on.
But afterwards, this enlightenment was taken away from them.
Yeah, this enlightenment lasted 5 minutes.
And they were commanded to count out the 49 Omer days, and each quality would be specifically addressed.
Okay, so there are 50 days, always 50 days, from Passover to the next holiday. What's the next holiday? The next holiday is the arrival at Mount Sinai. So the Mount Sinai did not happen 1 hour after crossing the Sea of Reeds. It happened exactly 50 days after. So we have a tradition of counting every day after Passover until we get to the Mount Sinai day. And we have a holiday of Shavuot. That's a holiday of the receiving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. So why 50? Because there are 50 stages of climbing up to the higher stage, which is Binah.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
could it be that it was because they just jumped to that 50th level
They couldn't handle it. It was too fast.
and they didn't have any foundation?
Beautiful. And that's why they played a game with the dice and ended up in the bottom again. And that's why they didn't make it. And only 2 people made it. For them, it was very hard. That's why Moses, my God, leading the people for 40 years in the desert. The 40 years is the game. 40 years of playing that game. And we look at them as rebellious. They didn't know how to handle living in the 50th stage. And every time they complain because they didn't understand the power of God. Similar to how sometimes we complain because we don't know there is something larger than us. Yeah, we should lament them. We should feel sad for that generation of the Exodus. Because they got all of this in one shot. It's like having I saw last night because I was fascinated with the last episode of Borodin. Borodin? Bourdain. I tried to understand the last episode and his death. Who saw the last episode last night?
I didn't see
You saw it? It was awful. It was awful. It was dark. It was the worst, I think. He showed the Lower East Side in the worst time when it was a junkyard for junkies and homeless people years before. And there was this darkness that seeped through the episode. So this is what I think they felt, the Israelites, walking in the desert for 40 years and not understanding at all what was the purpose of the exit from Egypt. And I think that all of us have those experiences of Egypt. Egypt is happening to all of us at different times. We're lucky if we are out of servitude and slavery. But some of us have to go through this. It can be a slavery to a handicap. It can be a slavery of illness. It can be cancer. It can be so many ways of suffering. It can be through failed marriages, divorce. I mean, do I need to name the Egypts in our life? Do you guys want to help me? Talk to me about some Egypts. And make sure that you start the sentence by saying, I have a friend. So then you lie about your own.
I have a friend whose daughter thinks she needs to make over her mother and make her a better person.
Oh my God. That's, God forbid, that Egypt. Oh my God. And what else? Come on, talk to me about your Egypt.
Taking care of an elderly parent.
Yes, for sure.
Losing a child.
Losing a child.
Losing a spouse.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so how do you come out? It's not going to be overnight. You need to have the 40 years of wandering. Hopefully it's less than 40 years, but I mean, the 40 never happened, guys. It's sometimes we are stuck in numbers, but it can be forever, getting out of those situations. So the story of Exodus is the story of our lives. That's how the Bible needs to be read. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy are different stages of our lives. They are about us. They're not about them only. That's how the Torah comes alive. If we try to be living in the 50th stage, which none of us will ever get there. None of us. And the moment we feel we are there, we lose it. How many times you actually understood God in the pure sense of what God is in relationship to you, only to lose it in the next moment? And always having a memory of that incident. And asking, why am I not feeling you in the way I loved you before? What happened to that tie between you and God and me and God? Wait, those are the stages of knowing what's happening here. Knowing without resorting to a miracle to prove that you were there. I mean, I hope you're not disappointed by me telling you, screw the miracles, they're not going to happen. You have to have the belief. You have to taste the matzah. You have to understand the communion. You have to taste the liquid in a cup. Those are the kind of things that have to be done without waiting for what? We tend to spend so much time willingly in the desert of our lives. Why? Move on. Play the game. Roll the dice. Let's continue.
Then on
Shavuot, the holiday after 50 days.
they reached the 50th gate. So at the Exodus there was Gadlut before Gadlut. Thus far his teaching.
Okay, Gadlut. Gadlut is this higher place. Gadlut. Gadlut means the higher level of existence. It's funny that the word Gadlut has God in it. In Hebrew. Okay, now continue.
Now it is taught that patriarchs fulfilled the Torah before it was given.
Yeah, we are taught that all the patriarchs already kept the Torah commandments before the Torah was given. Only Jews can come up with this shit. it's fascinating. By the way, Jews believe that the Torah is the blueprint of the creation of the world. So the Torah was there before. The Torah is actually the blueprint that God used in order to create the world. What an amazing idea. So, I mean, Abraham, what happened when those three messengers appear in the tent where Abraham was? What happened? What did he do? He ran out to greet them, invite them to the tent, and then what happened? He created a meal for them. He told his boy to create a meal, and the meal, he said, give me a meal that has milk and meat. Oh my God! How can Abraham, who knew about the Torah and kosher, told the son or the child to create a meal that has milk and meat? Of course, they found a way to justify that. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was not the milk. Don't worry. Because he knew the Torah. He was a scholar. Abraham, why would Abraham do something that is offensive to God? So that's how they solved it. Continue.
Jacob affected tefillin through the setting out of sticks and so forth.
Yeah, so tefillin is this Jewish ritual in the morning. Every man in the morning puts this strap around the arm to remind himself the rest of the day that there will be a need for him to continue obeying God. So he said, Jacob already had it. No, he didn't have it. But it's okay to believe that Jacob already did it. Continue.
This means that they fulfilled the inner Torah through different acts of worship, but less constricted than the Torah is for us, filled with restrictions and measures.
Yeah, so there was an inner Torah. The patriarchs already had an inner Torah inside of them. They were born already knowing everything, even before the Torah was given. That's why they are the patriarchs. That's how we remember the names. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and we liberal Jews added their mothers, for God's sake. God forbid we should add the mothers. The whole book of Genesis is about the mothers. The patriarchs are losers. Look at what happened. It's constantly manipulated by the women in Genesis. They are the one providing the progenitors. They are the one that moving their husbands to do the right things. They are the one talking to God in addition to their husbands. But the women in Genesis, please, after you finish to read the book of John and you get tired of the book of John, read Genesis. Look at the power of the matriarchs. Amazing. They love to manipulate their husbands. And the husbands are eating it without knowing what's going on.
35 years and he still doesn't know.
All right, so be careful. Read the book of Genesis only for women. The men should not read the book of Genesis. It's fascinating. It's the men and the women there. I mean, they're us. The book of Genesis is about us. About broken souls and broken dreams. It's about losing children. It's about gaining power. It's everything that love has for us is in the book of Genesis. Continue.
This means that they filled the inner Torah through different acts of worship, less constricted than the Torah is for us, with restrictions.
Yeah, so the Torah has a lot of commandments. And the patriarchs were able to understand the inner Torah inside of them that had less constriction. Go on.
This is the meaning of the wise child's question.
And now we're going back to the original question. Why is the wise child asking these questions? Go on.
He experiences himself as in good
Gadlut.
having attained this state of expanded mind on Pesach.
So the wise child is one of the kids from the story of the 4 kids that was able to reach a higher level of intellect and understanding. So that's why he's asking this question. Go on.
So from there he objects, what are these testimonies and statutes?
Yeah, why do I need these statutes and commandments? Go on.
Why is the Torah so constricted into rules and regulations commanded by God?
Yeah, why the Torah has all those commandments for me? I can, if the commandments are there to understand God, I already understand God because of my learning, studying. I don't need those. Go on.
It should be possible to fulfill the inward Torah through other acts of devotion, just as our ancestors did before the Torah was given.
I can do the Torah from my inner Torah inside of the things I learn. I don't need this object called Torah that puts more restriction. I know it all. So the wise guy on Passover says, I know it all. I don't need anything. I don't need all those commandments. I don't need the Torah to shape my behavior. That's a wise sign. Remember that, 4 sons. There's a son that doesn't know how to ask. There is the wicked son. There's the wise son, and the simple son. And those represent all the different levels of community and what we are. So the 4 sons are there to reflect on us. We come to the Passover celebration, each of us with a different level of understanding. So, but you have to teach the wise one, the one that says, I know it all. We have some of those kids in our midst. We know it all. Yeah. We are now adults and we know it all. Go on.
Then you have to answer the child by laying out the full practice of Passover. Explain fully the reason why it is called Pesach, because of that great enlightenment that took place without the prior cognitive stages. And that is why I'm mafit chirim. You cannot be released from the obligation of carrying out all the commandments and statutes that Yahweh has given us in such constricted form.
So those commandments are what? Those are commandments that have to be done in order to be able to climb the stairway. The commandments that we Jews have in our Torah, the 613 commandments, which some of them cannot be fulfilled because, thank God, we don't have the temple anymore. I'm talking the temple in Jerusalem. Oh, that took such a heavy load from us. Can you imagine all Jews involved in shish kebab and sacrificing animals? By the way, from time, we used to have a program at Temple, a sisterhood tea, where we invited people from different religions to experience different tables. And from time to time, they will ask me questions. Rabbi, where do you guys sacrifice the animals? Oh, we don't do it anymore, thank God. I will definitely not be a rabbi if I had to do sacrifice of animals.
Is this where we dance?
Continue, please.
Why? Because after the Pesach comes Afikoman, namely the taking away of that great first revelation of expanded consciousness. Afiko in Aramaic means going out, or removal of the man,
The manna.
or bread that comes down from the heaven. Right after Pesach, there's this taken away from us, and we enter the stages of Katnut, needing to fulfill the commandments in their present constricted state. This is the question of the wise son seeing himself with this expanded mind.
So the manna was given until Sinai. The manna was there for 50 days. The manna disappeared after 50 days. Why? Why the manna disappeared after 50 days? Because you got a body of commandments that came to do what? That came to help the Israelites to understand how to get back to the stage that they lost immediately after crossing the Sea of Reed. So the commandments are there to help all of us by fulfilling the mitzvot in order to be able to go back to the board and get to finally the higher level of understanding. The commandments are not a yoke, a burden. The commandments are part of the game of playing the shoots and ladders. Commandments help us to get to the total final awareness of wisdom that we had for a few minutes when we crossed the Sea of Reeds. Because, wow, I can live my life without miracles. I don't have to believe that miracles are going to change my life. And so for the people that doubt the miracles, God provided a set of mitzvot, of commandments, in order to be able to get by myself to the stage of the higher understanding of awareness. So the whole goal in Judaism is to get to the final square at the board game, knowing that it'll take all your life to get there, and maybe not. Is it okay to play the game and never get to win it? Sure. What's wrong in just being in a game? What's wrong in slowly understanding that we are moving higher on the board? It's okay. Please don't be disappointed. Yeah.
I just want to say that even this explanation of the commandments is, to me, that's just very beautiful, because growing up, you learn the 10 Commandments, and you learn those were the rules, and you follow them. There was never the reason to follow them is a crazy, stronger connection to God. That was a very large piece that was left.
I'm so sad that you told me that, because no, you're right. Judaism was introduced in early stages of church life in a way that talked about the commandments as a burden, as a yoke, as the Jewish God that gives those commandments. We have a different God, and our God doesn't require this of us. I think it's important to have a conversation about the way Judaism was introduced in early stages of the church life. And I think maybe the whole purpose of the Tri-Faith is exactly that, to be able to understand from a different point of view what those commandments are all about. Those commandments are in order to maybe shape who God is and how to get to a higher understanding and awareness. And they are not a burden, they are opportunities. And there are so many commandments, and not every commandment will lead us to the same place. You guys are doing it. The way this church takes care of people, the hundreds of groups you have here, which I'm so jealous of, reaching out to different. What is that? That's a Jewish commandment. Pay attention to the widow, to the orphan. You guys are doing all this without calling it Jewish commandments. But this church is definitely very advanced in the way you fulfill the teachings in the Torah. Sometimes you're not aware of this, but hopefully after my presentation today, you guys will say, wow, I'm too Jewish. And I think that this is actually why we get together and why we're doing what we're doing. Just to have a heightened awareness of what this spiritual journey of each one of us is all about. It's all about understanding God without talking about God, but tasting the matzah that replaces the miracle. It's hard work. It's rolling the sleeves and getting into the mud. And the mud is this work that we need to do. I want to thank all of you for allowing me to teach. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a new TV show on. I can't remember the exact name. It's something like I was texted.
Oh,
God
friended.
God texted me.
God friended.
It's on Sunday night. I watched it last night. Because I always loved Madame Secretary.
Yeah.
And then I watched this, yeah. But I had to watch the football game too, so I didn't pay attention to the God there.
Can you talk about how God reaches out to
Yeah.
us? Well, now this is a 21st century reach out. Don't be surprised if you get texted.
Beautiful. And you texted all the, I mean, what did I use today? The text. That's how.
You've been texted.
That's exactly what it is.
You got texted.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I saw a T-shirt that said Moses was the first person to get a text from the cloud.
I would love to buy that. Do they have it in extra large? She's still there.
He is a gift. He's an ace. He is such a gift. Pardon? Can I take your cup back?
They made a procedure of spraying and then sucking the spray to see if there's virus.
Thank you. I didn't want to finish. No, thank you. We've seen what grows.
Yeah, what grows. So it doesn't have to So, but she is stronger, she doesn't have temperature anymore.